Honorable members, please be reminded that the question before the House is that the Castries Constituency Council Bill be read a second time. Honorable member for Castries South East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we've heard quite a bit of discussion on this bill. The amendments being proposed by the Department for Equity and prepared by the Attorney General's office. You would think, Mr. Speaker, from the discussions that have taken place here and the presentations by the members opposite, that this was not prepared by legal minds, because the same legal persons who have always prepared documents for this honorable House for the years that I have been here are some of the same faces that are here who prepared these amendments. Now, Mr. Speaker, I will seek to address some of the concerns and the issues raised by members opposite. Mr. Speaker, we've heard about so much about corruption, and you would want to believe the members opposite if you listen to them in their debate and their discussion. And conveniently they remember things, Mr. Speaker, and conveniently they forget things. Let me take the member for Castries South as an example. I'm highlighting a point, Mr. Speaker, that while we are in this honorable House and we want to take it that the discussions taking place here would be based on facts or as best recollection of members of this honorable House, I want to dismiss what is said by the member for Castries South as having no substance, and I don't have any reason to believe that any of the information he gave is credible. This is the same member who accusing the adjustments being made or the amendments to the Castries Constituency Council Act, who when he assumed office as a member on the opposition side, went to the same council that they are criticizing today. Ask him, Mr. Speaker, under the reins of the Labour Party, the city council did not just become the manager of cleaning around the city and doing these things. The city council was engaged in road construction under this previous administration, you know, Mr. Speaker. And the member for Castries South went to the mayor himself to say who had built road in his constituency and had not been paid. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, on a point of order. If the member from Castries South is misleading the House, is implicating me in an action, provide the proof. He's a minister of government, he has access to documents. If he's saying what he's saying, provide the proof, or else withdraw it.
Honorable Minister, you heard the member for Castries South.
I heard the member
He's
for
taking
Castries.
issue with what
Yes,
you said,
he's
that of
taking
actions
issue.
that he may
Look,
have
the proof
done.
is sitting in the corner
So-
behind you there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm coming to
Okay.
this. I'm
All right.
coming to this. Mr. Speaker, The issue of contracts. I am stating here that the Castries City Council, through its various accounts that it operates, was engaged in construction activity. Where is the proof that the members opposite presented for all of the allegations made of corruption, of adjustments, of things that were being said? Mr. Speaker, if every statement that is going to be made in this honorable house must be validated, because I don't come here knowing what a member is going to say, but if a member is going to say something, he must expect a response. So in due course, I can get a sworn affidavit into this house to say what the honorable member said and who he engaged to get the payments. You want proof? Because, Mr. Speaker, we must not play these cheap shots in politics. And here's the member.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, if he says, no, a lot of the things I've said, I have enough documents to prove it. Today's not the day for it. If there is a sworn affidavit, Mr. Speaker.
Let me hear the member.
If there's a sworn affidavit, make it a document of the House. Because if persons want documents to come out and they want things said today, I have them. But if there's a sworn affidavit about me relating to a road construction in Castries South, can you be made a document of the House? I'm waiting for it to be made a document of the House, Mr. Speaker. Let it be a document of the House.
Honorable Member Castries.
Mr. Speaker.
Well, Minister.
Let me just endorse what I'm saying. The same member, this morning, he said, between 2016, January to June, not a single application had been received by the CIP board. He was the chairman by the board. Mr. Speaker, I have here and I can make it a document of the House. A document from CIP that shows in January there was 0. In February there was 0. In March there were 2. In April there was 0. In May there was 3, and in June there was 1.
You want document of the House? You want it?
Mr. Speaker,
The honorable
on a point
member.
of order. No, let me clarify.
The honorable
I will
member.
apologize. No, hold on.
No, let me
Honorable members.
clarify.
Honorable members.
Clarify.
Honorable members. Honorable members, both sides. If it's a point of clarify, the honorable minister may not heal.
I yield. Clarify.
Honorable.
So, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, I'm an honorable person. I'm not involved in no corruption in this government. We know who the corrupt ones are. You see, Mr. Speaker, I can say to you...
Honorable member.
No, let me
Listen to what you
clarify.
just said. I want you to withdraw that part of
All right, I
about the
withdraw,
corrupt.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah,
Let me
very
say something, Mr. Speaker. I know up to the time I left as chairman, there had been no applications and no citizenship granted. And if, no, let me continue, Mr. Speaker. If I said up to June there were no applications and there's evidence too, then I was wrong. If I said that. I know up to the time I was chairman, there had been no applications and no citizenships granted. As far as I knew, and as far as I said, up to June, there were no citizenships granted in the CIP. If there is evidence that applications may have been submitted, I was not aware of it, and if there is evidence which I don't have before me, I will not mislead the House, Mr. Speaker. I take my responsibilities in here seriously. I don't give comfort letters for 64 million. I don't do those things. But, Mr. Speaker, if that was the case, I was not attempting to mislead the House or to give any wrong information. And I'm honorable enough to stand up and say that.
That's how bad of a chairman he was.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there are lots of untruths being told in this House that you cannot readily present the information because you don't come to this House and expecting the honorable members to be misleading the House with false information. It just happened that I wanted to stand on a point of order when it was made this morning, you know, but I did not have the information readily available. So I got the information, and now I am telling you. So how do I validate any other thing that he has said in this honorable House? You think that is all, Mr. Speaker? The same things he said. December 31st, 2015, the board accepted the opinion of the Attorney General dated 29th December 2015 titled Licensing of Authorized Agents, in which the Attorney General explained that the licensing of the authorized agents ought to be done by the Citizenship by Investment Board. The member, you see, Mr. Speaker, I am establishing a point here of credibility, a point of when persons want to stand in this honorable House and say people are corrupt and people are doing crooked things. Mr. Speaker, yes, nothing to substantiate what is being said. Mr. Speaker, I move on with the issues pertaining to the bill, because the member that doesn't have any credibility based on what is available before us. He is asking for reports of investigations. The member for Viewfort North spoke about constituency councils and investigations into what transpired. Mr. Speaker, I think that I am entitled to have my own name cleared. Because if we're talking about reports and studies and what was done to determine who was corrupt and who was not corrupt, the previous government, Mr. Speaker, paid in excess of $3 million. And among the items on that list was the Taiwanese funds. Why are you making reference to the report that was done by people who had no legal standing or authority to do that study? But the report that was done by Robert Lindquist, commissioned by the Cabinet of Ministers, and it includes the funds of the Taiwanese that went to the constituency councils. Why hasn't that report been tabled in this honorable House? Why? Is there something to hide? Is there something you don't want us to know? If you feel I am so corrupt and you paid $3 million to investigate me, don't you think St. Lucians ought to know what is in that report? I have not seen the report, but I'm not afraid of what is in the report, because I know you cannot find what is not there. Something has to be there when you're looking for it to find it. You cannot find what is not there. And that is the strength on which I stand in this honorable House, and I can challenge any member opposite there. Mr. Speaker, we talk about reports. Where's the NCA report? And who sent Henry Charles to Guyana? Under which government he went? Where is the investigation that happened under NCA? So, Mr. Speaker, if we want to engage in this type of debate in this House, and every time you respond to them, they tell you you're going back to the past. They're behaving as if their actions are future. Their actions are not the past. All the things they accuse. Then a whole government sat. They fired workers of the same city council that we are discussing today. Fired the workers. And you know what they do? They want to blame one man who had no say. He had not even won a seat. They want to say, so you mean one man who had not won a seat fired the city council workers, and nobody in the elected government could say you had no right to fire the workers, re-elect them? Until they lost the elections, they didn't know it was wrong to fire the workers. All the time they were in government, it was right to fire the workers. As soon as they lost the election, you want to talk about litigation? You want to talk about cases that went to court? And you are standing in this house. I, on this side of the house, never supported challenging the decision of the court to appeal. And I say that boldly because these are the workers who are victimized by the St. Lucia Labour Party by dismissing them when they had contracts to work. You're talking about the people who clean our streets, who leave their homes 4 o'clock in the morning to clean the city before people get into the city. A little contract to clean the city streets. You all fired a whole bunch. Mr. Speaker, a whole bunch of workers were just fired. Some of them were their own supporters. They fired them. And then the matter went to court and the workers won their case. And you want to talk about love for the people? Every day in the cabinet, I said we should pay these workers. I can tell you, 2 of them died before they received their payments.
They died because of that.
You know, Mr. Speaker, we must have a conscience in this house. We can play our politics if we want to. But when it comes to the livelihood of these people that we are going after, we need to be mindful. So when the members want to talk about corruption and investigation, members of parliament being bypassed, I heard the member for Vieux-Fort North talking about members of parliament being bypassed. You mean the memory of the member for Vieux-Fort North is so short? You know how many years ago I was in opposition? Just about 3 years ago. If you cannot remember what happened 3 years ago, is what that happened 20 years ago, you know? Mr. Speaker, I was in opposition. I saw contracts being distributed in my constituency. I saw people who had not even contested elections yet, who are vying to be candidates, spending millions of dollars in my constituency. I was never consulted. I was never consulted. I was never engaged. I was never told. And you know the level of disrespect that we were treated with, Mr. Speaker? We were left standing in corridors together with contractors to negotiate projects for our constituency. Not even offer the chair to sit on. And I remember, and I invoke his name here today, the late Honorable Asan James. After he was tired of this, he told me, you know what? Forget about this thing. They can keep their contracts. Because that is how we were treated. That is what was done to us. I can safely say there are members opposite here. I would never treat in that manner. If a former member of parliament comes to the office, I make sure they are accommodated once I am aware that they are properly accommodated. Some members say they don't want me to accommodate them. So I have to say some. Those who want me to accommodate them, I accommodate them. Mr. Speaker, when I was Minister of Transport, if I saw a member, I made arrangements for everybody who came to renew their license to come directly to my office and let the secretary go and do it. You see, Mr. Speaker, we have an obligation towards each other. We may have our differences in politics, but there are certain protocols that must be followed. We must show respect. So when I was left standing in the corridor and I was tired, I left. And you know what they went back and tell my constituents? We're offering him projects and he's not taking the projects for the constituency to try and undermine me. I heard the member again talk about a bus shelter. Mr. Speaker, that is not what the debate was about, but that's what they brought into the debate, and it cannot go unanswered. The bus shelter that he talked about in view, that is not in Vieux-Fort North. Who built the bus shelter? Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for you. I want to ask the member for Vieux-Fort North, who built the bus shelter that we are talking about? They built the bus shelter because the bus... And today the bus shelter is repaired, and he makes you believe that somebody built a bus shelter that was outside of his constituency and then took money that belonged to his constituency and went and repaired. How disingenuous can these persons be, and they want members to respect them?
We see the fundamental point. Because you did the same thing in 2011 with $400 and something thousand full Vieux-Fort North accounts to go to Vieux-Fort South, which is exactly what happened.
Mr. Speaker,
We see the point.
Mr. Speaker,
Of course I built it. I built it.
so when you made your presentation, you could not declare that you built the bus shelter. So you made everybody believe that they took money from Vieux-Fort North to go and fix a bus shelter that's not even in your constituency.
The people of Vieux-Fort
Mr.
North,
Speaker,
school principal clubs and so on.
Mr. Speaker,
But we never took
that is what,
Taiwanese money to build it.
that is what
That's the
this
fundamental difference.
Parliament has disintegrated into. A set of people who will say anything to try and score some cheap political points. You're supposed to be in a safe seat. You're supposed to be in a safe seat. You descend into that level of the politics to try and show that somebody was doing something mischievous. That is not what that is about. Mr. Speaker, I go to the member for Vieux-Fort South. The member for Vieux-Fort South comes to this on the Linguist report is what you need to present in this house. That's what. That is of no value. That cannot go anywhere. Why if that has substance of corruption, why are you filing civil cases and not criminal cases? You know, Mr. Speaker, that is how they try to capitalize on the ignorance that they think that is out there. That is why all he is concerned about is Zakaya and Tululu. That's what he is concerned about. Now he's not concerned about lizards. He is concerned about Zakaya and Tululu. But the people are much more enlightened than Zakaya and Tululu. The people can understand what is happening here. So don't come and try and mislead the people of St. Lucia into believing that we don't have understanding. We cannot reason out basic things. Take the member for Vieux-Fort South. He comes. When you look at what the member for Vieux-Fort South said, the member for Vieux-Fort South says that in the adjustments being made here, the boundaries, as if the city council can set boundaries for elections. Mr. Speaker, you would expect that members who are supposed to be learned men would come to this honorable house and do justice to legal matters. You expect that. At least that is where he is supposed to be a professional. I can understand the member for Castries South keep on saying, I'm not a lawyer, I don't understand this, I can only read it like a layman. I'm like him. I have to say that. But when you hear professed lawyers who taught law in this region would come to this house and try to make people believe that the Castries Constituency Council can now establish political boundaries. How absurd. When all the legislation is saying, Mr. Speaker, is simple. After the Boundaries Commission has established the boundaries and the changes, and ask them who started changing boundaries. Ask them how the boundaries in Castries Central was changed. Ask them who changed it to influence votes and to reposition votes. You forget what happened? You forget what happened? You forgot how the boundaries were realigned to try and get certain members who are in this honorable house today out of office. This is, you see, when you use things to maneuver and to try and do things, you always believe other people doing the same thing. So I can well understand why they would judge us the way that they are, but we are not like you all. We are not doing the things. There's no intention of corruption for any of the rules that are being changed here. We were the ones who came to this honorable house, Mr. Speaker. We were the ones who passed the legislation that there are no statutes of limitations on corruption. So it could be 40 years from now, you would find that Guy Joseph did something corrupt. You can bring it to the courts. It was the government on this side of the house who introduced this legislation to this honorable house. So when the member comes, and all the amendment is saying, Mr. Speaker, is when the boundaries have been established, it is the responsibility of the council to inform persons of the realignment of the boundaries. That's all. All they would be doing is giving notice. So they have 30 days to give notice. So you don't wake up one day and think you are on this side of the political boundary, but really you on the other side. They are the ones who have maneuvered the voters list. When you're looking for your name here, you can't find it there. On the eve of the last election, Mr. Speaker, they tried to move 30,000 names from the voters list, and they published it in the newspapers. They end up calling a quick election because they realized they would have lost all 17 seats. So you know what happened? They didn't have time to enforce it. So, Mr. Speaker, the Constituency Council, its responsibility is simply to pass on information. Nothing more, Mr. Speaker. So I want the people of St. Lucia to understand that Constituency Council will not be setting boundaries. There is already an established procedure of a Boundaries Commission. Mr. Speaker, I think the Speaker is the chair of that committee. Nobody has interfered with that legislation. So how can the mayor be the one to set the boundaries for where people are going to vote on election day? And you tell me the member for Beaufort South, a former prime minister of this country, will come to this honorable house and try to paint that kind of picture? But Mr. Speaker, they have a way of forgetting what they have done. And that's why you have to jog their memory. You remember, Mr. Speaker, when the member for Castries Central said about the criminals, give the people a break for Christmas, the member said he never said that. But you know what? The day after he lost the elections, it was played that he said it. You think that's all? So when they come here and they debate, then he said, he went publicly and he said, don't give your fingerprints. Why they want to take your fingerprints? Until Mr. Moplezi had to come and show him, but you are the one who passed the legislation today. So I can understand they forget what they do. So we cannot depend on the information that is coming to us from the other side. The shortfalls of the new legislation I heard the member talk about why wasn't the members consulted? Well, I want to find out how many persons were consulted when they decided to move from Castries City Council to Castries Constituency Council. And I know I wasn't consulted. Now, they always talk about the boundaries that the city council has. The MON was always part of the boundary of the city council. The maintenance of the areas around the community college, the roads in that general area was all, so I was never consulted. They came here to this honorable house and they passed the legislation. I debated against it because we felt there was not sufficient consultation. Today, all of them have representatives on the constituency council of Castries.
Well, if you do it like you're doing,
I didn't have then, so I'm like you. I said on the Castries Constituency Council. I wasn't referring to the Republic of Labrie. I'm saying Castries Constituency Council, the member is well informed.
but all of them belong to the army.
The member for Castries South is well informed. He knows everything that is happening and everything that is not happening at the Castries City Council. Oh, you are a fortune teller now. So, the issue of corruption and Castries City Council is around from before I was born, I think. That didn't start today. Each government, when it's their turn, they tell you this, they tell you that. The fact is, where is the evidence to show what is being said? Now, Mr. Speaker, I can well understand why some people are so uneasy with the mayor.
Don't go there, don't go there.
They said the mayor running all the seats in Castries. so some people are getting nervous. But Mr. Speaker, I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the debate, and I want to focus on the member for Vieux-Fort South. He said that there should be consultation with the parliamentary representatives in the process of arriving at what should happen. I want to ask the members opposite, do they think on one side of their brain when they are in government and they think on the other side when they're in opposition? Because it cannot be that they are using their whole brain both in opposition and in government. Something is wrong, Mr. Speaker. Something is not adding up because everything they did not do when they were in government, they're telling you to do it now they're in opposition. I heard the member for Castries South. He talked about that wonderful report that was done, and if we had followed it. And I'm listening, and I heard him you read one, for you, Mr. Speaker, I think he read one paragraph about the municipality. You read one paragraph that said that. But prior to him reading that, the member for Vieux-Fort South said, we're living in the archaic age. You know, since 1967, we were talking about municipality. In this day and age, we have not grown at all. And yet still a report that they themselves commissioned recommended the same thing, which is exactly what we are debating here today. Mr. Speaker, while I want to listen to what the members opposite are saying, it really, I mean, I don't know how to describe their contribution. Now, Section 31 is one of the areas that they read, and they make you believe that the city council can just take all your things and just sell it. Is it that? I'm looking for the minister, did you take it? The legislation. Mr. Speaker, they moved all my papers, so I'm trying to find.
I might do the culprit. You want for Cassis Cousin Council?
I'm not seeing it.
This
Mr. Speaker, yeah. Section 31 is what the member for Viewfort, and he would make you think that the council can just take things and just sell it. Mr. Speaker, if you read the whole, and I need to highlight that, to just show you how they play on the information by giving a part of it and trying to mislead the people into believing that city council can just go and take your things and sell it. Section 31. If the property is the possession of the in the possession of the Castries City Council or the Castries City Police. And then it gives you what can happen. Then you read the lower section. It says the property under subjection consists of money. The money may be retained if it remain in the possession of the Castries City Council for 3 months. Basically, if nobody comes and claim it. This is making particular reference to things that are left abandoned in certain places. And it makes an exemption to motor vehicles that gives you, so if for example, a vendor comes to sell by the market, leaves all of their provisions there and go home, and it's perishable. It is so explicit, Mr. Speaker, in terms of what is there. And the member for Viewfort South, a former prime minister of a country, would come and make people believe that it is something so bad that the legislators in the Attorney General's office has done for them to go in that direction. Mr. Speaker, sometimes it's good to just read it. So it says, by reason of having been found abandoned in a public place. So if you leave something abandoned in a public place, so what does the city council do in cleaning the area? Do they leave it there? You go to the airport today, Mr. Speaker, every 5 minutes you hear an announcement. If any bag is left unattended, what will happen to it? For security reasons. So you don't think we need to you don't think the city need to be secured? So Mr. Speaker, when we look at what is happening here, it is scaremongering. There is scare tactics that is being used by the opposition to make people believe. I mean, I may not agree with everything that happens, but I can tell you, the city today is a much cleaner place under the United Workers' Party than it was under the Central Labour Party. There are better standards being upheld. And hear that, if the property under subjection is perishable or its custody involves unreasonable expense or inconvenience, the Castries City Council may sell or dispose of it without notice. I mean, so when the member comes and he reads one little line and he tells you, oh, city council can just go and take people things and in 30 days just dispose of it without even putting up a notice. Is that fair? Is that genuine? But nobody should leave what they have abandoned in the city of Castries. Nobody. So you can take your cow and you can come and drop it in the middle of the city and leave it there. And then nobody can do nothing with it. Or your horse, or whatever the case may be. I mean, we are society, we are supposed to be a modern society. So when you look at the legislative or amendments and the powers being given to the city council, these are the powers being given to maintain law and order to help regulate things. Another one, they spoke about the city police. City police should not be able to do this. Mr. Speaker, when I grew up as a young boy in the community, we had what we call in the patois term, constables. They were not police officers, but if you misbehave, they could arrest you. We are talking about law and order and maintenance of law and order in this country. And then the member tried to make you believe, oh, the process is reversed. You think the mayor has all the power that he wants to have? He doesn't. Because if the commissioner of police does not swear in whoever is chosen, that person cannot have any rights or any powers of arrest. So all the power does not reside with the mayor and who the mayor decides to choose. There are still laws that govern, and no law is operating in isolation of other rules. There are rules that govern everything. And Mr. Speaker, I know the members opposite know better than that, you know. But that is what they do to score cheap political points, to make people believe that the rules being established here, it's against the people of St. Lucia. For the whole morning you heard, it's against. Even with the CIP, it's against. If we need to adjust the law, and I agree with the member for Castries Central, we need to adjust the law. Because if a man marries and his wife can become, then if it's the wife that married, the husband should be able to become a citizen. All we have to do is come to the parliament, make the necessary legislative changes, and if the member for Castries South was so concerned about that, all of these years, his government was in office for 15 years, only now you recognize that this is lacking. If you support it, then table it. So, Mr. Speaker, I move on to other issues that was raised. Well, I've dealt with the municipalities, and I just want to assure St. Lucians, we need better law and order to be maintained in this country. And we must not forget why these legislative changes are being proposed. We need to regulate the parking within the city of Castries. We've had fires. We've had situations where appliances and emergency vehicles cannot access the places that they need to access. And the more vehicles you have been registered on the island, the more problems you are going to have as we continue to grow. So, Mr. Speaker, as we present these legislative changes that are required, it is to help maintain better law and order in the city. We all want to feel secure. I want to know that if I come to Castries, I can park my vehicle in a secure environment. So when you have, and the number of criticisms I heard about this, but I have to compliment the city police. They are doing a good job. They are now undergoing the type of training that is required. But they are out there every day helping in maintaining law and order. We cannot be a vitae society, Mr. Speaker. As we continue to grow, we need to be more responsible. I remember the years when we used to have police Zodi, and everybody used to say, oh, this, that. But the city was clean. Now we are seeing some semblance. We are seeing a marked improvement in the appearance of things within the city. And I want to see it extended to Cicero. And I want to see it extended to Fulasho and to Castries North and Castries East and all of the other places. Because it's not just the city, but that is the jurisdiction within which the Castries Constituency Council operates. And Mr. Speaker, when they presented the Castries Constituency Council and we raised certain objections, you know what they said? We will fix it as we go along. You spent 5 years, you didn't fix anything. This government is helping to fix the legislation that needs to be fixed so that we can move to the next stage of development within the city. And so, Mr. Speaker, I commit this on behalf of the Ministry of Equity and Minister Montut to this Honorable House for its approval so that we can see better law and order and a better upkeep of the city and its environs. I thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the Castries Constituency Council bill be read a second time. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to provide for municipalities, the Castries Constituency Council, and to establish the Castries City Police and for related matters.
Honorable members, we shall deal with clause 2 to 4, and thereafter we shall proceed by way of dealing with parts. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 3.
Binding of the Crown.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 4.
Application.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Aye. Part 1, clauses 5 to 17.
Municipality and incorporation.
Part 1, clauses 5 to 17 stands part of the bill. Aye. Part 2, clauses 18 to 21.
Officers of the Castries Constituency Council.
Part 2, clauses 18 to 21 stands part of the bill. Aye. Part 3, clauses 22 to 42.
Castries City Police.
Part 3, clauses 22 to 42 stands part of the bill. Aye. Part 4, clauses 43 to 49.
Finance.
Part 4, clauses 43 to 49 stands part of the bill. Part 5, clauses 40 to 42.
Miscellaneous.
Part 5, clauses 40 to 42 stands part of the bill. Schedule.
Section 15, oath and or affirmation.
Schedule stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Honorable members, the question is that the committee rises and the bill be reported. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I beg to report that the Castries Constituency Council bill went through committee stage with no amendments. Honorable Minister for Economic Affairs. Economic
Thank you,
Development.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that the chairman's report be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Castries Constituency Council bill be read a third time and passed. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Castries Constituency Council Act 2019.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, before we close, I just want to lend my voice and certainly the voices of my colleague to our colleague, the member from Ancillary-Canrees, on the passing of his father. I know that the funeral service is on Friday, and please be assured, I think I speak on all of us, all our behalfs. Our deepest sympathies to you and your family. I also want to highlight the passing of a young person in Dennery. And while it's always early to question what has happened, but obviously there are some suggestions with regards to bullying and other issues. And this is a very serious matter in this country. We're seeing way too many young people resorting to committing suicide to solve a problem. And I think that this is something that's going to require even a greater level of attention and maybe some uncomfortable subject matters that we have unfortunately avoided, that we're going to have to address them, because this is the reality of what our world is today. And again, a member from Dennery South, if you can please again pass on the condolences of all of us to the family. And certainly we always empathize when a young person, particularly just getting into making a major contribution to our society, is lost. So it's a deep loss. And we also had a very unfortunate shooting that took place. A gentleman in a grocery store, manning his own business at Crossroads. And I think it would be remiss of me not to say how much that particular killing touched me. To see somebody who is making a positive contribution in our society and who is working as hard as he was. And I know that the shop had been robbed previously, and that's why he was there to protect his wife. It's very troubling. And again, we have to do more in order to be able to guide our young people better. That the ability to walk in and to shoot somebody for less than $100 is a damning statement against all of us and our own failures. And I say collectively, I'm not passing the blame to any one more person than another. But we have got to be able to address this with our young people and bring back a sense of values, particularly to life. So again, I want to be able to say that. And the last thing I want to be able to say, Mr. Speaker, is I know that we're going to be heading into the budgetary period. We're going to be having the throne speech, if I'm not mistaken, on April 8th. Is it April 9th, you're correct. And I'm going to reach out to the opposite side, and that we have gone back now several times trying to go into these debate periods without a schedule. I'm going to appeal to the members on the other side that we can try to agree on a schedule. It is also very close to Easter, and therefore it is important, I believe, that everybody's voice is heard. But I'm hoping that we can try to maybe, on both instances, agree on a schedule of speakers. So hopefully I'm going to appeal to you, Mr. Speaker. I certainly will make myself available with the leader of government business, leader of the opposition, in order to try to resolve that, because I think it is a tight schedule, because we're going back to back on the two debates. So at this point, it's left me to ask for the House to be adjourned, sine die.
Honorable members, the question is that this House do stand adjourned, sine die. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House sitting adjourned.